Hello, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Monday, the 15th of May. Hope you had a good Mother's Day. It's a gorgeous day, so I'm going to sit out on my front porch and sit here with you. You can see my flowers that I have not killed yet. I have remembered to water them. I have not yet brought in the shovels from the winter, though. It's Alberta, so there's a part of me that thinks the minute I take them to the garage, it's going to have a snowstorm. We'll see. Um, I have been watching, Dude and I had been watching, but I've been watching off after he's gone. Um, Downton Abbey. I've become quite hooked. I remember watching the first episode and thinking, I don't know about this, but I thought I'll watch the second episode as well and see. And by the time I got halfway through the second episode, I'm in season 5 and not looking forward to season 6 being done because that's it. And not easily accessible for me to find the movie that was out. I will try to find it eventually, but we'll see what happens. But Downton Abbey is just like Maggie Smith, Lady Dowager Grantham. She is amazing, and her lines are incredible. Her script is amazing. I keep wondering how much of this is actually script and how much is just Maggie Smith's brilliance as an actress. But I was watching, I think it was like season 5, episode 4 or something the other day, and I heard something that just absolutely hit me. She says to someone, if you have the power to ruin something, you have the power to fix it. If you have the power to ruin something, you have the power to fix it. And I know people can come up with all kinds of things, examples where this isn't the case. But the reality is, and for most of our lives, if we have the power to make a mess of something, we do indeed have the power, whether or not we decide to use that power, but we have the power to fix something. Particularly, I think, when we're talking about relationships and things like that. The thing is, it may not be an equal and opposite reaction here, though. If I have a fight with my husband Rob, say we just have a good knockdown drag out, we're just fighting, we say all kinds of things we don't mean, and I'm struggling with this, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I do, and what did he say, and what he say, and all of a sudden I have to recognize at some point that I have done a bad thing. I have ruined something. I have the power to fix it. Now, if it took me 100 units of energy to ruin it, is it only going to take me 100 units of energy to fix it? Probably not. It's probably going to take more like 1,000 units of energy to fix it. But the fact is, I have the ability to do the work to fix it. Now, especially with a relationship, if you've done something that really, really bungs it up, if you've done something really horrible, like say, for instance, young man and a woman, they're together and he cheats on her. Okay, does that mean that the relationship has to be over? In my world, no. There's a lot of work needs to get done. Doesn't mean it has to be over. But one thing that's going to have to happen is he's going to have to start way back here. Like if they were over here, and this is where they were the month before, the year before, 10 years before, and this is when they started dating, he's going to probably be back here because he's going to have to reestablish that relationship. He is going to have to figure out how to rebuild her trust, how to get her to the point where she's willing to sit down and have a conversation, how she's willing to get her to the point where she's willing to say, um, to acknowledge, I can't understand why you did that, but I am willing to work through it, to get past it, things like that. It's going to take a lot of work. But we live in a world that really is throwaway, isn't it? Everything we have is we talk about it being recyclable. There was a time and day when it wasn't just recyclable. Like you wouldn't throw it in your blue box. It was recyclable in your house because you used it. I mean, think about, it wasn't that long ago when people made their own clothes, and when they were handed down from child to child and were threadbare, they would be turned into a coat. And when that coat itself began to fall apart, it might be turned into bags to put your potatoes in. And when the potatoes were falling through, then it might be even simply become stuffing for those toes of the boots that are too big, or chinking in the walls when the wind's coming in. Things were used until they disintegrated, until they were no longer there. We don't live like that anymore. We live in a world where if it's we're done with it, we throw it away. And I think way too often we treat our relationships like that. We think in terms of, well, if I ruined it, well, it's too bad because I really liked what that was and who that was in our relationship. But I ruined it, so it's over, it's done. There's no point crying over spilled milk. I'm just going to move on and find a new relationship. But really, if we have something good, even when we ruin it, why wouldn't we work hard to fix it? Is it because we're scared or we think we can't? There are very few things that we can't find, as I've been using the word, a workaround. Sometimes, somebody says, well, this fell through. I can't do this. I can't do this. Okay, so how do we work around that? Rob has a phrase from the military. I think it's the American military, and I always get it wrong, but it's like improvise, adapt, and overcome, or something like that. So something goes wrong and it's not working the way you wanted it to work. You have to look at the situation and say, okay, what parts do I have? What resources do I have here? What pieces of information, what physical things do I have to work with, and what can I do with this? And if the goal is to get, for instance, to get all of the stuff in your truck, in the back of your truck, to your grandmother's house, and your truck is broken down, then what's your workaround? How are you going to do it? Saying, well, my truck is broken down, so I can't go to my grandmother's house, isn't necessarily a non sequitur. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. Okay, so what can you do? You could ask a friend, can you come and get me and my stuff and take me to my grandmother's house? You could call a mechanic and say, can you come and help me fix my truck? I need to get there. You could pick up your stuff, put it on a sled, or put it in a wagon and walk it there. I know I'm being silly, but there are usually there is some way we can get around the problem that we find ourselves in. If we've found a way that it was ruined or we've contributed to it being ruined, we have the power to fix it. It may not be fixed to the way it was or the way we might want it to be, but it doesn't mean it's hopeless. It doesn't mean it's hopeless. There are so many things in my life when I look at it and think, well, that didn't work. Okay, so what do? I don't have the option of simply having a temper tantrum and expecting people to come and do my bidding and say, okay, 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 here you go. We'll fix it for you. I can do that. And then after I pick myself up off the ground and dust myself off and wipe away my tears, I have to realize that I am the one who has to take care of this for myself. So how do I go about doing that? Even when it's a sad thing, I just saw a dog walk by and it reminded me of Dude, and realizing that I'm still 2 weeks later thinking about Dude and expecting him to come home like he's at the kennel or the vet or something. And realizing that part of me just wants to have a temper tantrum. I want to just sit down on the front ground and thump my hands and my feet into the ground and yell at God and say, bring him back. This isn't fair. And maybe I should have a good holler at God. But at the end of the day, I know that temper tantrum's not going to fix anything. And that no matter how much I cry or how much I mope or how much I pray, Dude's not going to come back. But my life has been blessed by him. And there's so much of him around me. And he taught me so much. And he gave me so much peace and hope and joy that cannot be taken away. That my workaround, maybe someday I'll get another dog. But right now, my workaround is to see joy, to pay attention to those things that the Dude would love, to stop. And when I recognize there's another toy laying there on the floor that I'm not going to touch yet, I'm just going to leave it where he left it. And instead of being sad, take a moment to be glad that he was in my life. When something is ruined, it can be fixed. It may not be fixed in a way that we want it to be fixed. It may not be exactly the way we wanted it to become. But joy and peace can come from it. Joy and peace can come from anything. But for the basics, especially with relationships, I think that Maggie Smith, Dowager Grantham's wisdom is true. There is nothing that you have ruined that you don't have the power to fix. I'm going to think as I drive today. Today's my day in all three parts of my parish. And as I drive, I think I'm going to think on those things. What parts of my life that maybe I haven't done such a great job in, that I could do some work and put some energy into making them better. Relationships, my work itself. Who knows? Maybe by thinking about that and recognizing that the something being broken or something that's been ruined isn't the end of the day. It might just be pointing me to the beginning of a new one. I'm going to go now because I've got ants crawling up my legs on the front porch and they're like everywhere. So have a great day. God bless. And I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.